What that voice memo guy was doing is called weaponizing consent. That's a term that I just came up with today because we desperately need it to actually be able to talk about what's happening in that situation.
So unless you've been living under a rock or if you are gainfully employed, you've probably heard of Voice Memo Guy. To give you a quick rundown, it's this dude, he went on a date with the chick. He expressed to her that he wants to have relations in the bedroom. And she said, not really sure. Eventually, he followed up with this voice memo.
Had a good time tonight. Definitely think you are lovely. However, I would love to, if we're gonna go to your place on Thursday, I mean, I am looking to have that physical intimacy, to see if like I am sexually compatible with you. So like if I'm gonna come over, like I would be hoping to like hook up, have sex, have a good time, have like that romantic spark and that physical spark there, for my own sake, because it's hard for me to continue dating someone and seeing them if I don't know if I'm sexually compatible. So um I know you said I don't know about that. So like I guess my thing is like what would be the point of me coming over then if we're not gonna like hook up and like cuddle and like be intimate with each other? And if that's what you don't want, that's fine. But like I think we should just like end it here then, respectfully, just because I first date, that's fine. Like you want to get to know each other, I'm all about that. But like I am looking to have that physical aspect there, and I don't want to continue seeing someone if I don't know if that's good, if that's not there or not. So up to you. Let me know. I'm happy to if you do want me to come over, I'm happy to do so. Would love to fuck, have a good time, and we can have some wine, hang out, and chill. But if you're not trying to hook up, then like I think we should just go our separate ways. Let me know.
Now, the voice memo set the internet ablaze. A lot of people having a lot of different conversations. Was this coercion? Was this consent? What exactly is it? And some people have some very interesting takes that I might agree or disagree with. So let's take a look at some of them.
If you think that man's voice note was an example of consent, I fear for you, but let's talk about why it's not. I'm going to ask you two questions. Once you answer these two questions, I'm pretty sure you're not going to think that was a good example of consent. Question one: how do you think a man who says, "What's the point of me coming to your house if we're not going to hook up?" responds when you let him over your house, say you're going to hook up, and then you actually change your mind and decide you don't want to?
He should leave. He should 1000% leave. You can't assume that this guy is a criminal. He expressed how he felt about things. Actually, he has the makings of what a criminal wouldn't be because they wouldn't necessarily give you the options ahead of time. He let her know, hey, look, I want some of that, you know what? And if you ain't bought it, cool. Let me know so that we don't have to move forward. You cannot assume that he's going to do something crazy.
Question two. Let's say that event occurs, you say yes over the text, and then you change your mind. Um, let's say, God forbid, he decides to just take what he wants anyways.
Then he's a criminal. This right here is what's called a straw man fallacy. She's not attacking the argument. She's creating an entirely different scenario and attacking that. You're assuming that this man is just gonna say, you know what? You already said, yeah, I'm here. Bend over and give it up. You cannot just infer that. If she felt uncomfortable with the man, he gave her every opportunity from a distance to say, nah, I'm cool.
The takes a lot of you guys have about the voice memo guy are genuinely starting to piss me off because listen to the very, very, very first part of the voicemail. I want you to stop listening to these content creators and I want you to actually listen to the voicemail. The voicemail starts with, hey, I had a good time tonight. Further into the voicemail, he says, I know you're not sure about that, in reference to sex, meaning that same night she communicated to him that she was not interested in sex.
Completely wrong. He said that she said she was not sure about it. So what he did was he led with a follow-up question, a question of clarification, because at the end of the day, he wants to make sure that there's no misunderstanding, because misunderstandings get you in handcuffs sometimes. Sometimes there could be an understanding. Unfortunately, women can withdraw consent even after the fact, which I think is absolutely outrageous. So it's good to have at least a little bit of an idea to make sure that you two are on the same page.
Yes, I think it's fine that he is clear about his intentions and gives her the opportunity to decide. And I know why so many of you think that that's like an okay, reasonable thing. And he said it in this like nice language that many of you have, you know, been told is good, right? But you need to recognize that he sent this message the first night they met.
He sent that because they had already planned a second date, which would have been at her house. And once you've already said, look, I'm not too sure about the bedroom activities, and then you invite that person who expressed that they wanted bedroom activities into your home, it's probably a good idea to see where they stand. Because at the end of the day, misunderstandings are bad for everybody. I know some of you guys might be thinking, it's just chicks. Women are the ones who are saying this. Nope, there's men on this side of the fence too.
The voice memo guy was a dork. That's literally as simple as this conversation is going. I don't understand how we got to consent and coercion in the midst of this conversation. He was literally just a horn dog. And the crazy thing is, he was fucking in there. That's the thing. He fucked it up for himself.
You, sir, are actually part of the problem. You're assuming that because she invited him into her house, then that means that he was in there. No, that's the exact misunderstanding that we're trying to avoid. You, my friend, are the problem. He's trying to avoid everything where you're saying he's all the way in there just because he was invited over. Now, what I will agree is that does bring about confusion, especially when somebody already expressed the fact that they want bedroom activities. If you're not really into that, inviting them into your home doesn't really make sense.
Now, ladies, before I start this, it is not guaranteed that when you get invited over to a woman's house that she's going to give up the draws. Okay, I understand this. But if you went on one date, one good date, clearly it's a good date, and you're invited to her house the next time over, y'all are not going out, y'all are staying in. Bro, if you don't go in there and put some smell good on, go get some roses or something for the house, pop on a movie, who knows what's gonna happen? Personally, I felt as though he didn't really like this girl. He did not like this girl. He really just wanted some pussy.
And if that's the case, that's perfectly fine. He expressed that. It may be hard for some of you guys to believe, but there are even women who are on this level too, where they're like, look, I want to get right to it. And maybe he's trying to find a woman that's just like that. Well, definitely he's trying to find a woman that's just like that. He is dating. He's expressing how he feels. Sure, we can argue back and forth about, his tact, maybe the way he speaks, but, that's his ability to communicate. That I do agree could be improved. He could have maybe phrased it a little bit better, but at the end of the day, it was clear, it was concise, and it was straightforward.
So we've had weaponized incompetence. We've had weaponized therapy speak. And now get ready for the next thing that men are going to weaponize against you, which is consent. And the whole idea of weaponizing something is you're basically taking it and using it in bad faith to the point where it defeats the original purpose.
Now, I cut the part out, but this chick said that she coined the term weaponized consent, which every time you guys make up a new word, it just gives me one more thing to make fun of you for. But no, that's not weaponized consent. What I would categorize as weaponized consent is you pick a chick up, you take her on a date far from her house, and you tell her, I'm not taking you home unless I know I'm getting the cheeks at the end of it. At that point, it's not even weaponized consent. It's just straight up sexual assault. And she could press charges for that. That would be more so weaponized consent.
Consent is not something you can RSVP to like a party, because this man essentially is saying, I will not consider it worth it to drive out there unless you can RSVP to having sex with me at the end of the day. And there was nothing in his voice memo about you can revoke that consent. If you're not feeling good by the end of the night, that's okay. It's the thought that counts, anything like that. No, he was trying to guarantee an outcome, which is the opposite of consent.
He was not trying to necessarily guarantee an outcome. He said he wants to know if she's on the same wavelength that he's on. And true, you cannot RSVP consent because at the end of the day, you can take it back. But it's a good idea to make sure you guys are even on the same page. But luckily, not everybody's on the side of he is a creep, he is coercing her, he is weaponizing consent. Some people are actually coming to his defense.
The biggest takeaway I have from this whole voice note memo guy discourse is I'd much rather be the loser that asked for consent than the guy who picks up on the wrong vibe.
And I wholeheartedly agree with this, because at the end of the day, picking up on the wrong vibe, like the dude earlier, is a bad thing, because you might think it's going one way, because if somebody invites you to their house, you may think, all right, she's inviting me to her private place. Maybe I get to the other private place. No, it's not the case. So it's a good idea to know ahead of time, what is this going to be? And women speak ad nauseum about how men should be more open and straightforward. But when it happens, it's really uncomfortable, especially if it doesn't come off the way that they're expecting it to come off.
Some of you are going to hate what I have to say about this whole voice memo almost second date situation, but it's really just exposing a lot of you as bad friends, pick-me's, and horrible communicators. First things first, because absolutely nobody seems to be addressing the insanity of inviting a man over to your house for the second date. Why would you ever do that? So he already has told her, hey, listen, Kitty is really important to me. I really want to know if we're compatible in that way, and I want to know early on. Putting myself in that man's shoes, which I hate to have to side with a man on this.
And this is what it all boils down to at the end. A lot of women just have this disdain for men, or they have this vision in their mind of what they think is supposed to happen or how things are supposed to go. And then when that reality is crushed, they're like, oh my goodness, this person's a creep, this person's this or this, that. And that's not really the case. He expressed his feelings and he got a response. Well, I think he got a response. She never posted up her response, which I don't think she should have posted this video in the first place because this is something private, but this was just clear and concise communication. Now, there are people who played more the middle ground when it came to all of this.
Clearly communicating your intentions, green flag. Asking for clarification of consent, green flag. Checking in before you even leave the house, green flag. But those things are the only green flags about this entire interaction, for real. Because in practice or in application, if one of my homegirls had sent me that voice note and asked me my opinion, I'd have said block him.
Which she had every right to do and every right to exercise, which is the point of the entire message. He would tell his homegirls to block him because she was given the option. And then this next chick has a more nuanced approach, and she brought something to light that I didn't even think about.
I think a lot of heterosexual women do not want to date in order to suss out compatibility. They want to date as a performance. They want to date as a dance. Now, I'm saying many heterosexual women. I am not saying all. I am not even saying a majority. I am saying many.
The simple fact that she even had to make that distinction shows how far we've come as a society, that people don't understand generalizations. She shouldn't have to specify the fact that I'm not saying all women, I'm just talking about some. If you don't understand that, you're a moron. And I try not to insult people, but if you don't understand speaking in general, then you are dumb. You that means you have no critical thinking skills. You have no ability to comprehend when people are having discussions, because almost 100% of all conversations have to be in general, because there are always exceptions to the rule.
Who are dating in order to participate in the performance of romance rather than actually trying to ascertain whether they are compatible with this person. Because to me, it feels like a very cut and dry situation. This guy sent a voice note asking a question. The answer was no. The woman either responded by saying no or responded indirectly by blocking him, unmatching him. Either way, dating worked. The point of dating is to go out with someone, figure out if you're compatible enough to keep going out.
And that's a real big deal. A lot of women want to be romanced. They don't date for the actual finding a mate. They want to see these things that they see on the movie screens, the things that they read in their fictional books. That's why I forget whether it's China or Japan, but they actually put a limit to how many like romance and rom-com movies are happening, because it's ruining their dating scene, because women are expecting these crazy scenarios that happen in the movies to happen to them in real life. They'll be working as a barista somewhere and some rich man will walk in and pluck them from obscurity and then show them this life that they've never imagined before. And it doesn't happen often. Now, it does happen to some. It does happen to some. But it's gotten so bad that women expect to be romanced to that level that regular dating is not a thing. That's why you should date to find compatibility, and then hopefully you're compatible with somebody who is romantic. But to expect to be romanced by everybody, not every guy you meet, but to expect to be romanced just in this opening phase is actually real ridiculous. And this next man, I think, has the absolute best point when it comes to this topic.
My only opinion on the voice memo, guys, I kept seeing people say that his voice wasn't a big deal, that no one was going to find him. People have already found him. One of his ex-girlfriends have already confirmed that they dated. And this is one of the things I hate about TikTok. Instead of just owning up to the fact that, yes, it's obviously personal information, your voice is personal, because everybody has to be like this morally uprighteous person in every argument they make on here. They have to like pretend that your voice isn't identifiable, but it obviously is.
And that's the truest point about all this. We had no reason to be in this conversation. This should have never been made public. This was a private conversation between two people, and somebody even managed to recognize his voice and then connect it to who he is. This could potentially ruin a man's life. Just like the chick, DoorDash girl, who saw a man passed out in his home. He was naked on the couch, decided to open the door, record him, and then play victim. You don't have to record everything. Everything doesn't belong on the internet. Everything should not be shared with everybody. Certain things you need to keep to yourself, because if you do not, you could ruin many lives. So at the end of the day, I feel like this was consent. I feel like he gave her the opportunity to say no. Do I feel like he could have used a little bit more tact? Absolutely. Because there's a learning experience for everything. There's a way to communicate, and I agree it could have been communicated better. But that has more to do with his communication vocabulary than his communication skills. His communication skills are up to par. He communicated clear, concise, straightforward. So he can communicate. It's just the tact. Sometimes it's not about what's said, it's about how it's said. I can understand where people are coming from based on how he said what he said. But at the end of the day, he gave her the opportunity to say no.